India became independent from British rule in 1947, but was heavily dependent on other countries for import of food. Great leaders of India like Gandhi and Nehru inspired the young people to make India self-reliant and self-sufficient. It was then Mongombu Sambasivan Swaminathan, a young scientist, took the lead to change forever the agricultural face of India. Better known as M.S. Swaminathan, he is today one of the foremost agricultural scientists of the world. Over the past 50 years, he has evolved a holistic approach to eradicate hunger and develop livelihood opportunities for the poor through the combined use of traditional wisdom and modern technological skills. Even as a boy, he was brought up in an environment that familiarized him with the several aspects of mainstream nationalism.
I think I remember from the age of 5 or 6 to 10 or 11, the most significant at that time was the freedom movement. Every day on the roads shouting for freedom, and my father was very active in that movement. The pleading for the entry of Harijans into temples, my father again was a leader. Khadi and self-reliant, the Swaraj movement of people not depending upon foreign clothes, foreign imported food, the Swadeshi concept, and these were all very important. Twice when Mahatma Gandhi came and lived in our house, that was very great moment. Of course, I never realized as a young boy about Gandhiji and his true greatness that came later on. But everybody knew he was a great man, leading the independence movement, and his own approach to giving surplus wealth, simple things like he had a bangle, two gold bangles that he asked, and my mother told me, you give it to him because he then auctions them and may make some money for the movement. So many of these impressions stayed on.
His holidays, spent in his ancestral house in Mongombu in Kerala, sowed in him the fascination for all the aspects of farming.
The ancestral village of Mongombu and many of our ancestral properties, particularly paddy and coconut, these were the two main. Then later on the family bought some plantations like rubber, coffee, pepper and so on. Essentially it was an agricultural family which was born in Kuttanad in Mongombu. Mongombu, the temple deity Bhagavati, the Amman is our deity, and there was a tremendous attraction or affection for that small village. Like a Venice, it's surrounded by water. In those days there was no road. One had to go from Alappuzha to Mongombu by boat. Now there is a road, Alappuzha-Changanacheri road, by which you can go. It's a very picturesque place, but when I was a young boy it was a nice river. It's a beautiful place, it's a nice place, it was very elevating. So every summer, as soon as schools closed, 2.5 months, my brothers and I, we used to go to Mongombu, while all the other members, the joint family also used to come. I think at one stage there must have been 100 children there and I still wonder how my aunts, my father's elder brother's wife and others, they used to prepare food for so much of us. It's almost like a marriage party every day, it was not a one day, but it also showed a lot of affection within the family. Those were very memorable days.
The sudden death of his father, when Swaminathan was only 11 years old, struck him hard.
Because at that time death itself was new to me. I remember when I saw my father's body lying in Dharmalayam here in Mowbray's Road in Chennai, because he had been brought to Chennai for an emergency surgery, but those days there was no plane, nothing, he had to come by train. By the time it was too late, it was pancreatitis. So in the dead body, when I came from Kumbakonam, I saw a dead body. That itself was a new thing. that you suddenly it dawned. Even a young person in the most active part of his life can suddenly die. That also made a deep impression. Because the loss was greatest to my mother, naturally, because she became a widow at a very young age, and she knew the terrible responsibility of 3 boys, young boys, and 1 very young girl, their life, their future, their studies, and so on. It makes a lot of difference when the head of the family dies and the mother is young, but by God's grace everything worked out well in subsequent time. My mother was also a Gandhian, and she lived by example also.
He went on to live with his father's younger brother, M.K. Narayanaswamy, who was a great support to him and his family. He got a BSc degree in zoology from Maharaja College of Science in Trivandrum and another BSc degree in agriculture from the Agricultural University in Coimbatore, since he wanted to become an agricultural scientist. In 1947, he reached New Delhi to join Indian Agricultural Research Institute. He did his postgraduate research on non-tuber solanum, the genus to which potato belongs. He was interested in potato because of its significance to human food security. He got his postgraduate degree with high distinction in cytogenetics from IARI in 1949.
Then at the end of it I got a fellowship from UNESCO to go to Holland. The next 4 years were abroad, 1 year in Holland, 2 years in Cambridge where I did my PhD degree, and then about 15 months in the United States at the University of Wisconsin. Those were also very fruitful years. 1954, January, I had to take a decision because the president of the University of Wisconsin offered me a very attractive post as a permanent post as assistant professor. Normally it takes some time. They were persuading me to stay on, but then I decided that I must come back.
During his Cambridge years, he met Meena Bhuthalingam and they got married in 1955.
And then afterwards, I went to Cuttack in the Central Rice Research Institute, where my old teacher, Dr. N. Parthasarathi, gave me a short-term appointment to make crosses between Indica and Japonica rices. Then October 1954, I got a regular post in the institute where I had studied, IARI.
He joined IARI as an assistant cytogeneticist. The first, and it became the most revolutionary thing Swaminathan did then, was to look into wheat production in India, which was only 7 million tons. The population was also steadily growing, and there were dire predictions about India's future.
The whole atmosphere was dismal, and doomsday predictions were very, in fact, one of the books called Paul and William Paddock, Famine 1975, they said Indians will go by 1975 to their death like sheep to slaughterhouse. They have no other fate except to die out of starvation.
Swaminathan took the challenge. He was convinced that wheat production would improve if dwarf varieties were introduced. Indian wheat had tall stalks which made them collapse under their own weight. He reasoned that plants with short, strong stalks would grow well and more in the given area. He found that Dr. Norman Borlaug had developed a crossbred wheat seed that was part Japanese and part Mexican. Swaminathan invited Borlaug and they travelled extensively in India in 1963. Soon after, Borlaug sent a wide range of Mexican dwarf seeds to IARI. Initially on an experimental basis, the imported wheat was sown in a plot of 2 hectares in IARI model farms. The crop yielded over 5 tons per hectare, more than 2 or 3 times that of native varieties. That was a major breakthrough. C. Subramaniam, then the Minister for Agriculture, offered the timely support.
Subramaniam said, what is this 500 rupees per demonstration? There is no problem. And he had a very wonderful secretary, Mr. Venkat Ramanan, who then became the governor of the Reserve Bank and so on. So they gave the approval immediately to the, it was sort of turning point because 64 Rabi, as it is called here, We had laid out about 150 demonstrations in very poor farmers' field, and they all gave about 5 tons of wheat per hectare. Earlier, the best yield was 2.5, maximum 3, with the rich farmer. Here, a very poor farmer was getting over 5 tons. So it had an electric effect. Everybody wanted seeds of these varieties.
In 1968, Indian wheat production went up from 12 million to a staggering 17 million tons. The revolutionary jump was popularly called the Green Revolution. Farmers were jubilant, and India was on her march towards agricultural transformation. The government of India released a special stamp on that occasion. From 1966 to 1972, when he was director of IARI, he set up 3 interdisciplinary laboratories. The first was Water Technology Center for research in all aspects of water. Nuclear Research Laboratory, the second, was to bring the best in frontier technology to the rural poor. The third was Pulse Research Laboratory. He became Director General of Indian Council of Agricultural Research in 1972. Here, he imparted technical skills to farmers through work experience.
In 1979, Swaminathan was designated Principal Secretary to Government of India, Ministry of Agriculture and Irrigation. He was perhaps the only scientist to hold this high rank in government. In 1980, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi asked Swaminathan to move to the Planning Commission, since she felt that doers and not merely thinkers should be involved in India's planning process. So in 1982, when International Rice Research Institute in Los Banos wanted him to head it as its Director General, Swaminathan had to seek leave from Indira Gandhi.
I thought it's a good opportunity to go back. It is like an IARI, go back to my roots. So I met her. I think it was in December 81, and first she said, no, you are indispensable, you can't go. Then I said, something happened to me, reflex action. Since you say I'm indispensable, I think that it's time to go. And she said, have I hurt you? What did I say? I said, you said I'm indispensable, and I believe that you must go when you are wanted, not when you are not wanted. And she repeated it, you must go when you are wanted, not when you are not wanted, and simply said, you have my blessings.
In the 6 years Swaminathan spent at IRI, he helped establish a chain of national rice research institutions in many countries.
When I joined the International Rice Research Institute as its Director General in April 1982, I made a survey of all Asian countries with reference to their own national research capability. Whatever may be the availability of techniques, material from outside, ultimately the ability of a country to benefit from science will depend upon its own national scientific capability. The development of the capacity of national governments to undertake advanced scientific research, including biotechnology in rice, I would consider to be one of my most satisfying involvements during my 6 years in IRI.
He returned to India in 1988, and the following year he started the MS Swaminathan Research Foundation. He set it in Chennai since he wanted to be near the coastal areas. MSSRF works to foster sustainable development with particular emphasis on protecting the environment and the needs of the poor and of women and youth. The work culture distinctive to the foundation considers that science and education should serve as a human and social purpose. Over 200 persons from a variety of disciplines work here in a calm and cordial atmosphere. Swaminathan has the uncanny ability to turn disasters into opportunities for strengthening human security and well-being. After the disastrous tsunamis of December 2004, Swaminathan has suggested a coastal bioshield movement involving the raising of mangroves, palms, bamboo and other tree species that will serve as speed breakers in the event of coastal storms and tsunamis.
Swaminathan has now embarked on two major national missions to be completed by 2007. One is a hunger-free India.
MSSRF, supported by, in the case of hunger, by the World Food Programme, has done detailed analysis. What are the causes of hunger? How do we overcome them? We have a detailed strategy which has been discussed in various parts of the country with the chief ministers, with governments, with non-governmental organizations, farmers' organizations.
The other is Every Village a Knowledge Centre that will cover over 6 lakh Indian villages. From very early on, Swaminathan recognized the positive impact that information and communication technology would make on the rural economy. The village knowledge centers started by MSSRF function to bridge the digital divide and the gender divide. The trained villagers are given the title Fellows of Virtual Academy, an innovative method to encourage rural wisdom.
Swaminathan is 80 years old, but his energy and enthusiasm are those of a man decades younger. On the days he is in Chennai, he reaches his office in the foundation very early in the morning. He attends to all the programs of MSSRF and makes his valuable contributions. Despite his overwhelmingly busy schedule, he continues his scientific work and guides PhD students. He was responsible for starting agricultural universities in many Indian states. He is simple and soft-spoken and gently ignores criticisms. His friendly approach has made him highly popular with everyone.
Virtually alone among agricultural leaders, he has shown that the challenge of feeding developing countries is closely tied in with a number of other crucial factors, notably poverty, women's roles, employment, and the environment. He ranks as one of the world's finest exponents of human development in its most comprehensive sense. It is not often that the life of an accomplished scientist is also one of enduring commitment to human causes. In Swaminathan, the two have found equal expression.
If a scientist maintains his professional integrity and does not play politics, I think whichever political party, they will always respect them. This will be my message to younger scientists, because increasingly there is politicization of science. Scientists will sacrifice their integrity, professional integrity, for short-term gains, to become a vice chancellor, to become a director, and so on. I think that is the death of science if we do it. And I also hope successive generations of political leaders will maintain their respect for professional advice, which comes, the bottom line of the professional advice must be national interest, our country's interest, the interests of scientific progress. If that happens, our science will continue to grow.